For 25 years in October, the ghouls have come out at Kings Island. But how did this happen? Let's rewind back to 2000 and hear the origin story of Haunt and Fearfest. Hello, everybody. Alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and this is Tower Topics.
Tower Topics is a podcast by Kings Island fans for Kings Island fans, because that's who we are, and that's who we care about.
Hey, let's kick this off by thanking our Prestige members. I want to give a big shout out to Miss Mandy, 1983, Lil Mac, 21, Brian Hauser, 330T, Logan Lipper, Aaron Bort, Jacob Fix, Damon Barnes, Dakota Cole, Eric Grau, Dustin Jackson, Songstress Miku, Lack Ray, Galaxy B-Boy, Medic 302, Eastern Coaster, guys and girls, Justin Y, and Mike Garrett. Thank you guys so much for supporting Tower Topics at the highest level. That's the Prestige level. If you want to be involved in Tower Topics, there's a link in the description. Members get early access to the videos, exclusive content, exclusive live streams. Some tiers even get some free stuff. So hit that link if you want to be on board.
All right, on this episode, we're going to go back to the year 2000 to trace how the Halloween event went from a spooky experiment to a scream-worthy tradition for a lot of guests. So now's the time to go grab your flashlight, check under the bed, and let's dive into the history of Halloween Haunt at Kings Island.
Yeah, no small undertaking. It was supposed to be the largest and scariest haunted experience in the Midwest, is how they had marketed it.
Yeah, they did. But back then they were operating as Paramount's Kings Island, so they decided to tap into the Halloween spirit with a brand new event. They called it Fearfest. This was no small undertaking, Ryan. It was billed as the largest, like you said, scariest haunted experience in the Midwest, debuting on September 29th, 2000, ran for 14 nights that year through October 31st. So the park was transformed at night with haunted houses. You had fall-filled scare zones and roaming monsters. It wasn't just about the rides anymore at Kings Island.
Yeah, it had some real creepy attractions, like the torture tower on the Eiffel Tower, where the guests rode the elevator 265-foot platform, where they were greeted by howling winds, scenes of terror, and even a mad scientist lab with a wheel of death and sparks flying from a cattle prod. Woo.
Yeah, then you had the freezer, which was a maze beneath the Eiffel Tower. It was described as a stainless steel meat locker, and it was packed with mirrors, corpses, crazed prisoners, and ghouls. For its time, it was a really cool haunted experience.
Yeah, there was the Pirate Jack and the Legend of Halloween in 4D. That was in the Paramount, at the now Kings Island Theater, backstage area. It was a blacklight maze with 3D effects that told a spooky tale of Halloween. Guests even got 3D glasses for that one.
Yeah, I remember that. I wish they'd make use of that theater, more during
Don, they season. Can't possibly do that because they do the makeup back there.
That's right. I always forget that. Right? I always forget that. But Paramount really leaned into their horror IPs too. That was a positive that they had. They had all those IPs, so attractions were inspired by properties like Friday the 13th, Sleepy Hollow, and even Bram Stoker's Dracula. They also brought in Elvira, the Mistress of Dark, for some camping horror fun. Do you remember Elvira being there?
I grew up on that movie. I watched the movie again of last Halloween season just because it popped in my mind and it was on one of the streamers. And now I realize that was one of the movies that I really, really shouldn't have been able to watch as like an 8-year-old, but I was too immature to understand the innuendo and stuff behind it. But yeah, Elvira is cool. Look her up for those of you who don't know who she is. Very interesting story. There is an Elvira movie. That movie's fine. It's like a horror comedy, but her traveling from hosting horror movies on TV, just doing interludes in between this horror block late at night, all the way up to having her own movie is very interesting. So hit up that Google machine for that one.
It was a bold start though for Kings Island, because you look at the Midwest, and Kings Island's history, a lot of families in that. So this was something that was a little bit over the top, not what guests were expecting on a typical day at Kings Island, but the stage was set after that first season for it to become an annual tradition.
Yeah. Ran Fridays and Saturdays and nights. 2001, 2002, 2003, though, there's a big shift because that's when it started to be included with park admission, which means more families could join in.
Yeah, well, yeah, they wanted to be the families. They wanted to get them to the park. There was a lot of complaints from pass holders that I got my season pass, but I can't bring my kids. I can't bring the family. I have to pay for this. So the compromise was, hey, let's just make it included with a season pass. So to balance the family, friendly vibe that Kings Island has been known for more than 5 decades, Kings Island toned down the event. Some of it. They kept the haunted houses. Those were still fairly intense, but the midways in that, they kind of dialed that down a little bit. They added some kid-friendly activities. They had the Pumpkin Patch Express, where the train would stop at a pumpkin patch, and out in the picnic grove, they had some, fun things out there, including a talking pumpkin. And then, by the time you got to 2003, mazes like Circus of Horrors 3D, Curse of the Crypt. I remember that was one of my favorite ones, was Curse of the Crypt. Maze of Madness, Psychopath, and House of Darkness. Those were all terrifying guests. When you went through those attractions. But out in the park, it was kind of mild. It wasn't as intense as it had been those first couple years.
Yeah. So now we're getting up to the point where I really remember this stuff. But Circus of Horrors in 3D, I bet a lot of people remember that because that moved around the park a couple times. I remember being in the Fest House. Was that its original location?
Yes.
Okay. So it was in the Fest House, kind of like if you walk in, it would be kind of in front of Panda Express.
Yes.
It was just
right where Panda Express was, right.
Yeah. Randomly built right there in the middle of that walkway, which obviously got a little bit less, concerning. It probably wasn't great with the crowds that they ended up drawing. But Curse of the Crypt is kind of legendary. And I was surprised when that went away because that was back when, they'd have the mazes for a while, but I guess it was when I first started. It's right when I got with KIC and stuff. So to see that not return, I remember the highlight of that one. And by the way, Curse of the Crypt was kind of back in the back of the games building. Kind of you go in the gate where the parade floats come out now.
Yes.
And it was in those buildings. But I remember there was a part where you had to crawl.
There was like glass, over like a glass window kind of, or was plexiglass, whatever it was, and there'd be the monsters underneath, like banging up on you and stuff. That freaked my daughter out. She was only like about 7 or 8 at that time, but it was so much fun. When they had Fearfest.
Maze of Madness, that was in. Is that where the Chaos is now, or is that a different building?
I want to say it's where Chaos is.
I think it is too. That one had fog and chains and strobe lights, and basically you walked in for a good time, you walked out with a migraine. Is the way that I always saw it.
Yes,
that was a legitimate maze, though. You had to find your way out. So that was kind of cool. The Psychopath, that's another legendary one. Kind of where Orion is now in that area. You'd literally go through the woods. One of the things that sticks out is they had an outhouse where the door would swing open and it would spray water on you. So if you want something kind of pleasant for that, I remember a crawling section for that too, where you had to crawl through a tube kind of thing. And that
they don't make mazes like they used to, do they?
No, they don't. You did have the option of not crawling too. Now, House of Darkness, I don't remember that. What can you tell me about House of Darkness?
That was, I'm trying to place it. I'm thinking it was over by the Scrambler. It was one of the first things that went in there.
Could it have been in the place where they had R.L. Stine and sorority and all that stuff?
Yes, I believe that's where it was. Now, correct me if we're wrong there. And I'm sure some of the longtime Fearfest fans, Haunt fans will remember where those were. But you also remember when they turned the antique cars into Route 666?
I do. I remember that having a long line. And it was ironic because that was super popular. People really loved it. But it didn't come back the next year because they removed the antique cars after that.
Yeah, that was disappointing. Everybody loved that. And people, I remember 2019 when Kings Mills Antique Autos opened, that guests were asking about, why don't you turn this into that same kind of an attraction that you did before? I would love to see it. there's still the opportunity for. I mean, this year they've already got everything set, but for 2026, why not take advantage of it? I think that was like you said, one of the most popular things there was to do at Fearfest.
Yeah, and to throw names out there, I believe that was he didn't work for the chain at the time, but that was the first project that Jason Curtis, who's one of the head honchos of creative at Six Flags now, that's his first project. I think he was with 3DX. I think 3DX did a lot of that stuff, so that's really cool.
Yeah, it was really cool. So I think that would be a perfect thing to bring back. It'd be fun, but we got to move on here. What else you
got? Sleepy Hollow Horror. That was one of the ones if I recall, by like the Whitewater Canyon. That was the Whitewater Canyon queue. And then Dracula's Haunted Castle and the Paramount Action FX Theater. That I remember being the worst iWorks video I have ever seen in my life.
Yes, wasn't good.
That was disastrously bad.
Yeah. And then I remember they had the old Phantom Theater animatronics that were located outside the building.
Yes, they did. They had them there that year, and they moved and everything. So that was another project by, I'm not going to drop another name here, but another project by somebody that is with the park currently. That was their first ever project, was getting those animatronics moving. And I remember being just so freaking delighted by that, seeing this.
Oh yeah, it was kind of cool watching that, wasn't it?
It was. He didn't create scenes from the show, but he had them all moving and stuff, and had No Legs Larry flying around. It was just brilliant. It really was.
And then by 2025, we see more things, more scares coming to Fearfest. We had mazes like Cornstalkers, the Headless Hollow on the Kings Island and Miami Valley Railroad. That was something that was very popular. Always long lines for that.
Yes.
They also used the R.L. Stein's Fear Street, tapping into that the Goosebumps vibe. I thought that was pretty cool. But they were really Paramount. They were all in on making Fearfest a must visit Halloween event in the tri-state area, and making great strides. Guests absolutely loved it. Look forward to that time of the year. The logo I thought was really good.
Yes,
merchandise was flying off the shelves. They couldn't keep the sweatshirts and the hoodies and all those kind of things in stock. So rolling on all cylinders.
Yeah, and then Cedar Fair happened. Actually, I don't want to preface it like that, because the event had gotten a little stale, and then Cedar Fair purchased the park in 2006. Was it 2007? It became Halloween Haunt.
Yeah, they just kind of rolled with what had already been planned for 2006, but in 2007, it was announced. I remember writing the press release, sending it out, doing some media tours, about it late August, and it was still Fearfest.
Yes.
And then we got the memo that we are going to upgrade the event. We're going to call it Halloween Haunt. It was going to be aligned with Cedar Fair sister park, Knott's Berry Farm, which was the granddaddy of all the Halloween events in the country. They were the ones that started it. Their haunt was legendary, so they were looking to have that type of an experience at all of their parks. So to incorporate that into the legacy Paramount parks, and then they were extending the event. It wasn't, sometimes going to close at like 11 o'clock at night. It was open till 1 a.m. That was a big deal. That was one of the things that I was tasked with making sure everybody knew, that this was a 7-hour experience. It was the most immersive horror experience in the Midwest, open for 7 hours. You can ride, rides like the Beast until 1 a.m. And guests loved it. They liked the idea that it would stay open that late. So the name change, not just cosmetic. Everybody thinks they just swapped the name out, but that was not the case. With Halloween Haunt, Cedar Fair, they doubled down on the scares. New mazes like Club Blood in Action Zone. You remember Club Blood?
I remember Club Blood is totally amazed you could do in today's world. Totally.
Yeah, but it was if people weren't talking about it and upset about it, the way the corporate team at the time, the people that were overseeing the haunt at all the parks, you weren't doing your job. They wanted people upset about what they saw. They wanted people talking about it. They wanted news stories about, is this too much? Is this over the top? Remember some of the decor going down International Street. They had like the little babies, the skeleton or a monster was cooking a baby on the grill, those kind of things.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit, it was over the top. It worked. People were talking about it. The production value, I thought, Ryan, it really went through the roof, back in those early years. It was now really a full on playground of terror. There was more than 600 monsters that were hired in those early years of Haunt. That was more than like twice the size of, twice the number of monsters that they had before for Fearfest. So you had those, the clowns, the vampires, werewolves. They would have all the monsters out front when the event started.
The wall of monsters.
Yeah, all the monsters, yeah, and they would all start banging on the gate, the doors that were down in front of the turnstiles. And then as soon as it opened up, as soon as they opened the gate, it was just like total chaos, with hundreds of monsters just roaming everywhere. They were in front of the fountain on International Street. They were at the turnstiles ready to get you. They were going out into the plaza area outside the front gate, just terrorizing everybody, so it really got the event off to a good start on those nights. And that's what they wanted. They wanted it to be scary. They wanted it to be intense. They wanted the families that brought their children to second guess that and not bring them back again. So it was working. And by 2018, the event was being voted the best Halloween theme park event in the country by USA Today readers. So that was something the park was really proud of. And, you look to where the event is now, it kind of got a little bit soft the past, few years.
Mm-hmm.
But this year they're upping the ante a little bit. You got The Conjuring Beyond Fear. That's a premium experience. It's a 20-minute walkthrough, based on the Conjuring horror franchise. Guests get to play the paranormal investigators. They're facing off against the Nun, the Crooked Man, and Annabelle. So that looks like that's going to be something that's really going to elevate the experience. And then, but other things too about it look like it's going to be elevated. Now we have to talk about the upcharge this year. That's drawn the ire of a lot of pass holders that the mazes are no longer included with park admission. You have to buy a separate ticket. The Conjuring is separate from the other ticket, so it's just $15 just for that. And then the other maze is now requiring the Haunted Attractions Pass or upcharge, whatever word you want to use. Those start as low as $10, but day, depending on what day you go, it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that price is going to change. But 25 years of the Haunt event at Kings Island. Do you consider it the 25th anniversary of Haunt, or do you look at it as that's two separate events?
25th anniversary of Haunt. In fact, I wish I had thought to wear it. I did buy the Haunt 25th anniversary T-shirt at the park already, but I didn't wear it today.
Yeah, I've got a Fearfest hooded sweatshirt. I was going to wear that, but a little warm in my room right now to be wearing that. But it's I love the Fearfest logo. So I don't know. It was a different experience in a way, but in a lot of ways it wasn't. So I guess we could call it 25th year of Haunt. Just like if a ride changes a name. That it might have some different, things to it, but you look at how many times the log flume has had different names. It's still the log flume, right?
Right. Well, yeah. And the event was definitely amped up, but it wasn't fundamentally different in spirit. It was exactly the same. And, but it's not the 25th year because they took the COVID year off. So I don't know what you're saying.
Oh yeah,
but
that's true. 25th season still, though. How about that? Still the 25th season. So 25
maybe that's
years,
what they're marketing.
25 seasons. Yes, it's all. I don't know. But I'm looking forward to Halloween Haunt. What about you?
I am. I'm especially looking forward to it this year. I think it'll be a really cool year. It's going to be make or break for them, obviously, with these upcharges. We've discussed that at length. Looking forward to The Conjuring and all the new mazes and to see what's different with the other ones and see if this upcharge is worth it.
That's going to be something to for us to be monitoring, looking at, getting those sentiment reports about, what people are saying after the opening weekend of Haunt. Hopefully the weather's, good, and we get a better, better feedback on that. But I'm looking forward to seeing, if guests are going to feel that those returning mazes. I know there's no question that the two new ones are going to be worth what they're charging, $15 for the Conjuring, and whatever day you go, I think the other one in Action Zone, both done by Plague Productions. I think those are both going to warrant that upcharge, but it's the returning mazes that everyone's asking about. Why am I paying for the same old thing? Well, hopefully it's not the same old thing, and they've done a few different things in those mazes. Maybe they have more scare actors in there. They're going to need to have more scare actors in there, but we're just, we're getting to that point in time. We're about to find out, what the real reaction is going to be. It's one thing to be, talking about it on social media and that you don't want to pay the upcharge or you're okay with the upcharge, to actually experiencing it and then having that real live experience with it and knowing whether it's worth it or not.
Yeah. So, listeners, this is where you hop in. What's been your favorite part of the Halloween season at Kings Island? What's your favorite maze, scare zone, show, any of that stuff? We'd love to hear it. Drop a comment and let us know. Let's move on to a segment we like to call Buy or Sell.
All right, Ryan, this is for you. So it's with the Peanuts deal extended for the Legacy Cedar Fair parks through 2030. The Legacy Six Flags parks will be dropping Looney Tunes.
In 2030 or like now?
They didn't specify when they sent that to us. They just said with the deal extended through 2030 that they're going to be dropping Looney Tunes. So let's just say that could happen anytime between now and 2030.
Oh, between now and 2030, no way. Because if they're expanding Peanuts into the other properties, they would have said that in the release, because that would have been a really, really big deal. But what I will tell you is this: the next 5 years, the next 4 years, I guess, is going to be an A/B test, because they're going to see which one performs. And if they're in a financial position to re-sign with Peanuts, that's what they're going to do. And it's going to be chain wide. If Looney Tunes does anywhere near as good as Peanuts, Peanuts is gone in 2030. That's what they're doing over the next few years. They want to be able to do an A/B comparison across all the parks. That's why they're doing both, to see which one to go with. They're probably rooting for Looney Tunes a little bit because it's cheaper.
Yeah, and they've got that deal extended for decades.
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't think they're going to drop Looney Tunes. I think that's been important for those parks. It's part of the fabric of those parks now that it's been around long enough. So I think they will see what it looks like in 2030, and maybe it's all Looney Tunes, or it is business as usual, and you've got these parks with Peanuts and these parks with Looney Tunes. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with having your own identity in some parks. So to me, I think that's the best of both worlds. And I think, especially if they continue to give away the all park passport and you do go to some of those other parks, you go to Six Flags Great American Chicago, 5 hours away from us. It's kind of cool to see the other characters, not see the same thing that you see at Kings Island. So I think there's some value in that for me.
I'm sure there is a downside. Like I know that Cedar Fair used to use the Peanuts characters for their corporate logo. Now they just cannot do that because they've got both companies they're representing, and they probably can't commingle the characters. I'm sure that would be horrible. And there's probably some cost synergies, real cost synergies, not cost synergies like cost cutting. But if you can, it can say Six Flags and then have Looney Tunes characters on it, and you can sell it at 10 parks as opposed to Six Flags and Looney Tunes and Peanuts, Kings Island and all that, whatever. There's definitely a synergy there, but I don't think there's anything damaging about having different IPs at different parks on the surface level. No. And what do you think of my theory about the A/B testing, where whichever one performs is the one they're?
I hadn't looked at it that way until you brought it up, but I think that I think you're probably right that that's what they're doing.
I think that, it's going to depend on their financial situation. Honestly, regardless, they're probably going to be able to do it, because in 5 years, they would either have pulled themselves out from under this or they would have emerged from bankruptcy. So they probably can do it
Right.
in 5 years. But that's why I'm pretty confident that depending on which one performs and which one has the better sentiment and stuff might be what they're going with ultimately. And coaster enthusiast news, Don.
Well, the coaster enthusiast news is get ready for a day of thrills and chills. The American Coaster Enthusiast, the East Great Lakes region, it invites you to ER Scream. It's going to be at Kings Island on Sunday, October 19th. It's a good day for me. The Bengals don't play. So this exclusive event is for ACE members and their guests only. And registration is required to join all the action. You don't want to miss it. So for more information and to register, go to aceonline.org.
Yeah, aceonline.org. Great organization, good people. All right. Well, we've got an online store coming soon. We've talked about the last couple episodes. It's going to have a lot of merchandise, a lot of stuff. It's going to integrate with YouTube. We're very excited about it. Hopefully by the end of October, we'll have the rebrand with that. Just public service announcement. We do not have t-shirts on sale now, but it's going to streamline the process. We're very excited. There's going to be a lot more products available with that.
A lot more products, and this is a result of your interest, messaging us, sending us emails, asking if we have this or that, and now we do. So looking forward to launching that store.
Yeah, we'll be right back with the listener questions. First listener question, Brian from Melbourne, Kentucky. I should be able to say that because, anyway, I attended the September 1st final season operating day at Kings Island. I was shocked to see that the preferred parking nearly full at 10:15 a.m. Then around 1:30, I wanted a short break, and they were turning people away from the VIP lounge. There were several guests that appeared to have moved into the VIP. With the fire sale on passes, will KI just weather the storm of upset guests not being able to take advantage of these perks?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to worry about it too much. It's going to be, oh, well, we sold a lot. I don't think the guest experience is as important as the money it's generating, from these sales. Cash is king right now. The guest experience is secondary. And that's what's happening here. You buy that pass and it says that you get parking in the preferred lot, but on a lot of days you're not going to be able to get it in the preferred lot because it's going to fill up by 10:15, 10:30. You're supposed to get the VIP lounge, and for finding, as you saw there on September 1st, they're turning people away. Too many people in the VIP lounge. It says that it comes with snacks and everything. I think you're going to see the elimination of some of the little packets of whether it's chips, pretzels, Doritos, whatever it is that they're able to give you in the VIP lounge. I think we're going to see that swapped out for popcorn in the foreseeable future. So it's always one of those things that what it says you get when you buy these passes and what you end up getting are often two different things. So I think that there'll be people going to guest service and they'll just shrug their shoulders and not much we can do. Crowded day today. It'll just be one of those kind of things.
Yeah. The VIP, I couldn't see them floating the money for, extending the VIP lounge or whatever. But the preferred parking, I mean, they do have room to extend that. I understand the whole thing of the buses there, but I'm saying like if they wanted to extend it out another, 50 or 60 feet, add a couple more rows of cars, and then just repaint the road around it. It's not like they have to repave the road or anything. That could be done, but I don't see them doing it. But I see a world where that's possible.
Where you have the guests that upgraded because they were sold on the VIP lounge and the preferred parking up close. And if they go 4 or 5 times next year and they keep getting turned away at the VIP lounge or they can never park in the preferred parking lot, guess what? The next year they're not going to renew and get a prestige pass, because the experience wasn't what they paid for. So that's one of the things they have to look at too. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next year.
I'm going to call 2 things now.
And one even this fall, not next year, just even this fall.
Yeah. I'm going to call two things now. One, I'm going to call that if you go to guest services and you talk to like an actual manager and say, listen, I came here, my Prestige is supposed to park me in the preferred parking, and then I couldn't get into the VIP lounge and this and that, they're going to say, what do you expect? It was only $100 more. I've called that for a while. And they wouldn't be wrong. But the other thing is going to be, I have a feeling that the first night that, like the first, maybe even this coming like Saturday of Haunt, the first Saturday of Haunt, when it's super busy and that lot fills up and they get people at guest services complaining, they're gonna put language, they're gonna drop language on the website that parking is subject to availability and stuff like that. So they'll retroactively
first come, first serve, all kinds of things. Yeah. VIP lounge, first come, first serve.
Yeah. And they'll also attack us when we talk about it. How like, so Don, it's been 4 times now that I've tried to get into the VIP lounge. Then again, September 1st was pretty, I mean, I wasn't here, I was out of town, but wasn't it pretty busy September 1st? I've heard it was like astronomically.
It was a busy day. Yeah, it was busy.
Because I know that
when I weather, that's the reason. I mean, how much you don't have any more days like that left. So yeah, everybody's going to come out.
But I remember one day, the first time I had the Prestige Pass in 2023, where they basically said, I'll let you in, but I don't know if there's a spot for you. And that was like the Saturday before Halloween. So I have a feeling that this problem isn't going to be as bad as we're kind of imagining. I'm hoping it's not, because I think a lot of people will buy it and it'll be like, oh, I just bought a pass, let's go now. And they'll park in the VIP and they'll go in, park in the preferred parking and go into VIP and stuff. And then a lot of those people will drop off after time. Or like I've had a Prestige Pass for a month now and I've never been in the VIP lounge. Just I've been in there before and there's no novelty to it to me. So maybe that'll fix itself. I don't see the park doing anything to compensate for the fact that they've sold more of them. But I also think that it's quite possible that in our minds, we're overestimating how many Prestige passes they've sold, because I feel like doubling the price of a pass for a family of 4 is kind of silly in a lot of people's eyes for the benefits you get. Like me, as like just buying it for myself, it's a no-brainer. But if you got a family of 4, it's either $400 for your passes or $800. And at that, even if you only get preferred or Prestige Pass for one person, so you can park in the preferred lot, that's the one person that gets into the VIP lounge. Your kids and your wife or whatever won't get in. So I'm hoping that maybe just people, it's like white noise to people, like, oh, I can pay double for the same thing. No, thanks. I think that's entirely possible, but I think we are very much at risk of it being a big issue next year. So we'll see.
We'll see. And I think the first couple of nights of Haunt, it'll be a big risk. I think it'll be a lot of people.
And the last couple of nights of Haunt. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Amanda from Hamilton Township, Warren County, said, before I buy a Haunt season express pass, where can I find info if the haunted attractions are handicap accessible for a person who uses either a scooter or a motorized wheelchair? I appreciate any info and advice on where to find this information. My 80-plus-year-old dad, who has dementia, watches your YouTube videos at least once a day and recognizes you both as the Kings Island Eiffel Tower guys. I don't plan to take him through the mazes, but I do have a friend that loves all things scary and rides on a scooter. They used to be ADA compliant. Do you think they still are?
They were. They should still be. But what I would do, Amanda, is I would reach out to the park. I would send an email to them, so you have it in writing, asking, about the accessibility in these mazes. That way, you've heard from the park. They put it in writing to you, what you can and what you can't do. But I know that they were before, that it was, something that the park made sure, that they were accessible and that, all guests would be able to experience these haunted attractions.
Yeah, that's a good consideration. Andrew from Beaver Creek said, who's your favorite amusement ride manufacturer and why?
This is a really good question. And when I saw that question had come in, you really have to think about it and why. I was a big, B&M fan for the longest time. I was, even before Kings Island had a B&M coaster, I always wanted to have one. Um, there's those that are, big RMC fans, and that so there's a lot of good manufacturers out there. But for me, I think today's Vekoma is my favorite amusement ride manufacturer, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I think before they used to do a lot of the off the shelf type models, maybe not always the most comfortable rides, but in recent years, they've done some really good rides, a lot of innovative rides. An important piece of the rides that they put in has been the reliability. So if you're going to a park, the uptime, it has been fantastic. Every ride has a little bit of downtime,
Right.
but just very reliable. The things they've been able to do, you look at Siren's Curse, from a ride like that, very innovative and very, smooth, fun, thrilling. And then you look at Big Bear Mountain at Dollywood, that's a fun ride. Guess, a lot of different ages can enjoy that together. Good Gravy at Holiday World, so just the variety that they have, from roller coasters that, families, especially with younger children, younger guests can all do together, to the thrilling rides like Siren's Curse. That's why it gets my nod. Who's your favorite, Ryan?
I would say the most exciting one right now is definitely Vekoma. I'm on board with you with that. But if I had to pick a favorite one, where if a park has one of their rides and it's going to be something extreme and innovative and stuff, I would have to go with Intamin, because Intamin had all of the all the innovation and stuff in the early 2000s. Now they're making more reliable stuff. I see you're wearing the Vekoma hat for your audio.
They make great hats. Not only great rides, great hats. Great hats.
I just hope that if our store has hats in it, they're as excellent as the Vekoma hats.
They're not.
We haven't sampled them yet. But anyway, so I would say that overall that's my favorite. But as far as like what's the most exciting manufacturer today, it's most certainly Vekoma.
Yeah, I like what your choice is a good one too. And did you always get caught up in, when you're going to a park, like who the manufacturer was, or did you just go for the ride and didn't care? You just liked the experience?
I would definitely say that the manufacturer. Okay, having ridden a bunch of rides, I don't have the highest coaster count on earth, but I have ridden my fair share of rides. So, for example, the first time I went to King's Dominion, I was there shooting fireworks for Rozzy, so I only had about 2 hours to enjoy the park. So I didn't ride Anaconda because I've ridden a bunch of Aero Loopers. I kind of know what they feel like. I can pass on that one. I don't have time. But as far as, I'm going to go to the Six Flags Chicago because they're putting in a new RMC or something, that doesn't really affect me as much.
Right.
But I think that anybody that's ridden a bunch of rides kind of knows what they're getting into when they know who the manufacturer is, to an extent.
I think that I would say that maybe the past dozen years or something for me has become a little bit of a factor. It's like you said, what to expect with different manufacturers. And, with Vekoma, 20 years ago, you thought, okay, this might be a little rough. Some transitions and that might not be the smoothest, but now that's not the case. You want to ride today's Vekoma rides. B&M, you know what to expect with them. Intamin, you know what to expect with them. I mean, they make great rides. I mean, there's just so many good ones out there. It really was hard for me to pick one. But I was, on the theme park side of it, I'm thinking, okay, what's reliable, what's innovative, and what can we do to have the most, number of guests that, the broadest range of guests that can ride it. And I kept coming back to Vekoma.
Yeah. If you've got your own questions, send them to hosts with an S @towertopics.com. That's hosts @towertopics.com. If you're too cool to send an email, you can send us a text or a voicemail, 513-399-7538. That's 513-399-7538. If you text us, we'll read it just like we did these. If you leave us a voicemail, we might play it on the show. We'd love to have you featured on there.
And be sure to join the Tower Topics Facebook group. You can find it just by searching Tower Topics on Facebook. There's a lot of Kings Island fans in there, a lot of good conversation, and we'd love to have you join that group.
Yep. All right. New episodes every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm Ryan Sir along with Don Helbig, and this is Tower Topics.